A very warm good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, viewers. I'm Matthias Aufiku, news editor of the Namibian Sun newspaper. Welcome to another exciting edition of the Evening Review Show. Well, the capital has been making headlines in recent days, and for that reason, we have Honorable Josef Kauandenge in studio, NUDO parliamentarian, also a former City of Windhoek councillor, and that's the hat we want you to wear tonight. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm sure you've been following the happenings at the City of Windhoek council and what's been happening there. Can you describe the events of recent days in just one word?
Chaos. One word. There is total chaos.
Well, what do you think is the cause of the chaos that you are describing?
Well, you must remember that 2020, when we went to the polls, or Namibians went to the polls, they went looking for something different. They made sure that the Swapo party lost, for the first time in 30 years, the majority at the City of Windhoek. With a hope that the combined forces of the opposition will be able to contribute something different or to bring something different to the table. And unfortunately, 2 years down the road, I must admit that that did not happen. We really, and when I say we, I mean the collective of the progressive forces as opposition parties, have failed the city residents in two or one respect, and that is that we are failing to lead, unfortunately. Now, there are underlying reasons why we are failing to lead, but as a collective, we are really failing to lead the City of Windhoek. And this is a perfect opportunity that was given to us as opposition to showcase that can Namibian trust us as a collective to lead the City of Windhoek, and by extension, perhaps in 2024, to lead this country. But the first test, we are failing. Yes.
Of course, your party is part of the progressive forces. And we know there's been failed attempts in the past also for coalitions. What made you and your fellow progressive forces think this time around things will turn out much different?
Well, for starters, you had new faces, young people that were at the helm or elected into council. The perception then was the old guards don't want to work with one another, the presidents of the respective political parties. So when we ushered the new blood, the young people that came into the tickets of this party, we thought that now is a chance that we can show that indeed opposition parties can work together. The political will was there for these parties to really work together, but unfortunately the ideological differences between these parties, the personality clashes between leaders of these various parties, and to the extent that some of the councillors are remote control from their head offices. They are not their own men or women in that council. They have to dance to the tune of their leaders. They have been called from time to time that you should take this line, not this line. And the interference actually from the party leaders also played a very big role in the current mess that we are seeing at the City of Windhoek.
But is there something wrong with the party giving direction to their representative on council?
Well, there is nothing wrong with that by giving advice.
Does NUDO do that to your councillor?
Oh, yes.
Who happens to be the deputy mayor?
Yes, we do. But you must be in a position to limit the total interference, where a councillor cannot take a decision in the council chamber before he or she gets instruction from the party leadership. Now, the question is, why did you send that councillor there? Obviously, there must come a time when that councillor should use his or her own conscience to see what is best in the interest of the residents of the City of Windhoek. But when you are remote controlling them, you are actually saying they are there just as shadows, but they don't have the capacity or of the faculties up here to be able to think for themselves and take decisions on their own, which is really very regrettable.
Yeah. So during the initial discussions, when this progressive forces movement, if we may call it that, was forced, did you at any time think that perhaps our ideological differences are too far apart for us to harmonize into a force that can work together?
Well, I did not really think so, because if you look across all these parties' manifestos, there are certain areas where we really complement one another on the question of the land, the allocation of land, the urban in urban areas. There are quite a substantive numbers of areas where our manifesto does support one another. But I think what we are seeing here has nothing to do with ideological differences. It has more to do with some leaders' egotistical, whatever you want to call it, egoism, overrated importance, and then the issue of majority as well comes into play. Some of these parties, they have more majority than the others, so they want to play now the big daddy, and the others must just dance to their tones. And that is, I think, that is the current problem that we are foreseeing or seeing now at the City of Windhoek. Yes.
So, as leaders of your respective parties with your deployees on council, did you guys have a chance to meet and at least attempt to iron out issues?
Well, you remember when the coalition was formed, where Dr. Mupanda was also the mayor then, from my side, I really played a pivotal role during that time, the first year, which was 2020, where I was then by the leaders of the various parties on the coalition nominated to be the chairperson of the leadership caucus. So I really tried my level best at that time to bring these parties together, even to the extent that it took us almost a year before we even signed the Memorandum of Understanding. We get into office in January 2021, we signed the agreement only in August 2021, 7 or 8 months later. 3 months later, then in December, the coalition collapsed. So we really tried, or as a chairperson, I really tried to bring these leaders together to say, listen, we have a perfect opportunity now as opposition forces to show to the country that opposition parties can and are able and are competent enough to lead this country, given the change come 2024. So luckily we came together, we signed the Memorandum of Understanding, but again, 3 months down the road, the personality clashes started coming to the fore. Well, everybody thinks he or she is more important than the other one.
So who is this everybody that you are referring? Because you are being very vague. You speak of people, everybody. But
for starters, the mess when I was the party, the chairperson of the caucus then, the mess that we had there was courtesy of the IPC and its leader, Dr. Patunele Itula. Because, unfortunately, because the IPC have 4 councillors there, they are dominating the management committee, they want things to go their way. Well, some of us as minority party were saying that no, it cannot be the case. We are in a coalition, we have to have a policy of give and take, even where the minorities' voices must be heard through the process. But unfortunately, that did not happen. The coalition collapsed. LPM came on board, and this is what we are seeing now, that this coalition again will not stand the test of time.
Yeah, so when you saw that, as the chairperson of the caucus, when you saw that things are now collapsing, did you at any point try to bring everyone onto the same table to see whether you can indeed rescue the ship?
Well, I did. I took an initiative of calling every leader individually from those of us that were in the coalition then. I talked to Dr. Itula, I talked to Honorable Venani at the time, and of course we tried to intervene and see what can we do.
What was their reaction?
Well, it's just unfortunate that at that time it was very clear that the personality clashes between Dr. Itula and Dr. Mupanda was just too much to bear. For one or the other reason, I don't know what reason that was, these two gentlemen seems don't like one another. I don't know. They are all from the northern part of the country, so I don't know their history, why they seemed not to like really one another.
Yeah.
Or perhaps because they are both doctors, I don't know. But that really was my problem. But irrespective, we tried to hold the fort and managed to finish that year, 2021, up to December with that shaky coalition. But we managed to do so because I had to intervene from time to time to bring them together to say, man, we have a bigger purpose. We have a bigger purpose. We cannot be really going down to these unnecessary infights here and there.
Yeah.
So we managed then to come up to December 2021. And then thereafter, you know what happened? AR went out of the coalition. PDM went out of the coalition. NUDO was left there with LPM and IPC. And here we are in a marriage where I don't know whether this is a marriage or we are heading to a divorce court.
Yeah. Also, it's for the first time that we have so many parties represented on council. Do you think that also plays a role?
No, it does play a role, but also particularly it's a question of leadership. When somebody tells you that you must be a tested cadre, we tend to frown upon that one and say, but what do they mean? What is leadership? I can just walk in and I can lead. But unfortunately, it's proving true that perhaps also the mess that we are seeing at the City of Windhoek is because we have some people in power, in powerful position or in position of power that have no leadership skills, that have not served in any leadership capacity before. So you have to have that experience in order to be able to diffuse situation before they get out of control. Now, if you lack that characteristic as a leader to be able to say, for the better good, let me rather look the other way. If it is an eye for an eye, where will we end? We will end where we are here currently. So I think that also is playing a very big role in the current mess that we are having at the City of Windhoek.
Just before we go to a short break, I'd like to know from you, as much as you highlighted the fact that some of these councillors never served in, well, what you term these leadership positions, they are what we have now. What do we do?
Well, I think everybody should really stand back and ask themselves, in their respective political parties, what are we here for? You know, leadership, it's a calling. You don't just go into a leadership position just for the sake of wanting to be seen or to serve. You must have a bigger purpose of why you are there. Now, for us to be able to move beyond where we are now, I seems not to have high hopes that this coalition will go up to the end of this year. I see this coalition breaking up somewhere before we even get to the new elected leadership of the City of Windhoek. So, but what can save the situation is when everybody comes down and say, but in the interest of the residents of the City of Windhoek, let's talk. If I was wrong, let me apologize to the next person and let's then move on. But I don't see that happening with the personalities that are leading the City of Windhoek currently.
Yeah, we'll go for a short break and we'll be back for this conversation. To our viewers, we'll head for a short break and we'll be back with the second half of the show. Stay tuned.
So high, they were thinking it's a felony for sure. Don't stop, closer, let our rhythm shake the floor. Don't stop, take it lower, every cat deserves that.
Well, welcome back from the short break to our viewers. Honorable Kauandenge, let's continue this conversation. Yesterday, the IPC-led management committee held a press conference where they revealed shocking and scary figures, if you must say, especially if you are living in Windhoek. Of course, knowing that it's the administration capital of the country, which seems to be in financial ruins. What did you make of those figures? And what was it like during your time? Was it this colossal?
Well, I think Namibians are making also a very big mistake in that regard, that they think that the mess that is at the City of Windhoek is because of the opposition forces. They are totally wrong and misplaced. The current mess that we are seeing at the City of Windhoek, and even to the extent the accumulation of this debt is and must be put at the doorstep of the Swapo party. Because why? Swapo was in charge of the City of Windhoek for the past 30 years or so. Now, you cannot tell me that opposition forces that only came a year or 2 years into the City of Windhoek has or are the ones that are responsible for the current mess. Who increased those salaries and those specs during all these 30 years at the City of Windhoek? It was the Swapo-led administration. So, first and foremost, we must put that blame back at the Swapo party doorstep and say you are the one that have made the city or have made this mess. For us as opposition parties that are in council currently, we can only do this much, but we cannot correct mismanagement of 30 years in 2 years' time. So, if you look at the salary scales of the City of Windhoek, who approved it all over these years? It was the Swapo-led management committee. Even when I was at the City of Windhoek, opposition parties were never part of the management committee because Swapo had the majority then. So this management comprised mostly all of them among the Swapo members or councillors. The same with the mayor position, the same with the deputy mayor position. There was no opposition party that occupied that. So while we are struggling as opposition parties to manage the City of Windhoek currently, all this blame cannot squarely be put on the opposition parties because we are not really to be blamed for that. What was the creation and who created the city police for that matter and made it an independent department from the City of Windhoek, but while at the same time the salaries and all the other perks of the city police are paid for by the municipality of Windhoek. So I want that clarification to be made. Yes.
Yeah. Well, as much as you're saying the blame should be put at the doorstep of Swapo, well, the opposition is there now. But what is being done? Do you think something is being done to rectify then the situation or the process that led us to where we are today?
You can only rectify what is happening at the City of Windhoek in terms of the bloated personnel and whatnot if you overhaul the whole remuneration policy of the City of Windhoek. But you know, once you do that, then you have unions on your case because now that form part of the benefits and privileges of those that have been employed there. So, and unfortunately, because we don't have a majority party with a majority among the opposition, even as we speak now, to be able to form the management of the City of Windhoek, you will have that problem where A party B thinks that we should do it like this, and A party C think that we should do it like this or so. So that is a problem that we are having in this country, at the City of Windhoek in terms of addressing that issue. It's going to be very difficult under the current setup where you don't have where you have parties that don't have majority to be able to address it unless, I don't know, a miracle happen where as I have said, we go back to the drawing boards as political parties, opposition, and say, man, we are messing up. We are 2 years away from the general elections. Let's put our differences aside and let's work together for the common good of the Windhoek residents.
So, the lack of leadership that you spoke about earlier on and the chaos that you described earlier on, do you think it's perpetuating the 30-year mess that you referred to that was caused by Swapo?
Well, I think we also have to make a distinction there because among the opposition forces last night, some were attacking me to say, yeah, Kauandenge, when you say as opposition we have failed, you are giving ammunition to Swapo. But I say truth must be spoken, even how uncomfortable that truth is. And the fact is that we are messing up as opposition. It's a golden opportunity. We should have embraced it with open arms and try to showcase why we say vote us into power, we will make a difference, even for the rest of the Namibian people, but we are failing to do so. Having said that, as I have alluded to, yes, to some extent, the figures that the IPC-led management committee revealed to the public yesterday, it's nothing new. If you go to successive Auditor General reports on the finances of the City of Windhoek, there were always red flags, even under the Swapo-led administration at the city, that the city might go to the extent that it become insolvent one of the good days, so because its liability far exceeds its assets. It was already there all these years. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
So, but for us to be able to address it, we must try to work together, to put our differences aside, to put our egoism aside. But I don't think that is happening, and that is where I'm really, it's paining me to see how can we really address this issue.
But do you think it's fair for the residents of the city who pays hundreds of millions of dollars every month to keep the municipality afloat, to ensure that they get services, for you to sit here and say this issue has been there already and it's been coming along, while one of the tickets on which the progressive forces was running was that we will bring change?
Well, make no mistake, since despite the differences that the oppositions are having among themselves, there have been some few good initiatives coming from the City of Windhoek, even during the reigns of Mayor Mupanda. Some projects that I unfortunately cannot highlight now because I did not come prepared for that, but that they have really tried to do. But you must also understand that even if the opposition, and this is the crux of the matter, even if the opposition wants to, in their capital budgets or in their budget, put certain requisition that they want to do A, B, C, D, our system again, it's so, I don't know what is the right word to use, because even to that extent, the budget of the City of Windhoek, a part one municipality, must first be approved by the line minister. Who's the line minister? Is a Swapo functionary, a Swapo appointee by the president. We will also not want the opposition to flourish, to make progress, but thereby withholding certain projects that might make the opposition to shine as well. And last year we had that issue.
So are you saying Swapo is so selfish that they will rather advance political gains at the expense of service delivery to the masses, just to make their political opponents look bad?
Swapo is an animal, it's a political animal, and they have perfected the art of deception. So yes, they can do that. As what has happened now currently in the Karas region. What is happening there under the leadership, that region is under the leadership of LPM. What is happening there? Chaos. To the extent that the Swapo-led administration removed some of the LPM MPs even from the National Council. Swapo as an institution, Swapo as a party, of course, will not want to let the opposition shine. No, it's political suicide. So, and that's why when I was the chairperson of the caucus last year, 2021, which was last year, we even took the minister to task publicly to say, why are you withholding approving the budget of the City of Windhoek?
What was his answer?
I'm still applying my mind. But while he was applying his mind, certain projects needed to be started for the benefit of the residents of the City of Windhoek. So it's quite a complex situation where we are in, where on one hand you have the opposition that should take the lead and showcase leadership skills, fighting among one another, and on the other hand you have a government with a minister appointed by the Swapo-led government directly reporting to the Swapo Central Committee and the party president, playing politics as well.
Yeah. Yes. So you are essentially saying we should abolish the system whereby the ministers should approve these budgets. What do you propose? Which system will then be commensurate to take care of the system?
I don't know, why should the minister approve the budget of the City of Windhoek? 90 or more than 90% of the revenue that run the City of Windhoek does not come from central government. It comes from the taxpayers of the City of Windhoek.
Yeah.
So when you get money from the central government is on capital projects that they do sponsor from time to time, but with limited amount. The City of Windhoek budget, the last time when I was there, was 5.6 billion. From that money, what does government contribute or on a yearly basis to the City of Windhoek? So you can only control what you put in. But unfortunately, that setup was just set up there to control municipalities. Municipality like Windhoek, of course, I can perhaps understand the village council. Maybe they don't have the manpower, what. But for part one municipality like the City of Windhoek, I don't see the need why the budget should be approved. But when I came there, the budget was approved by the management committee of the City of Windhoek. Then all of a sudden, there was an amendment to the, Local Authority Act, and now the minister must approve. Now, will you really, even you as Matthias sitting there as a minister of the Swapo-led government, approved in totality what the opposition bring on your table? Because this will make the opposition looks good, and you are 2 years away from general election in the country. This is the conundrum the way we are finding ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was this a political decision?
To do so? Of course, it was. By all means, it was.
Yeah.
Yes.
As we wrap up tonight's show, I'd like to know from you, what is your message to your councillor who happens to be the deputy mayor, especially in the midst of all this infighting and so on? What is the party's message to him? What are you telling him?
Well, we have always been telling our deputy mayor, our member, that please try by all means to mediate. You are a lonely voice there. You are in minority. The other parties are more than you in terms of seats at the city council. But try to mediate wherever you can in order to bring these warring parties together. Because seriously, even in my term, I have never heard of a chairperson of the management committee addressing the media. It has never happened.
But is there a rule or policy that prohibits them from doing it?
Exactly, there is. The spokesperson of the city is the mayor. And the next person that can speak on behalf of the city is the communication department. When I was there, there was no way where the chairperson of management addressed a media conference. It was always Mayor Kadapwa or Mayor Kahungu. That's it. Now we are seeing a different type of tug of war between the mayor and the chairperson of the city council. Of management committee.
Are they having been on council, are there any punitive measures that the MC chair can face after yesterday?
Well, provided, but you must also understand that the IPC controls the management committee. We are four there. So that is a body that should take punitive measures and by recommendation to council. Now, will they take actions against themselves? Because it seems to me, to their understanding, they are correct. They should do that. So, but it's really outside the parameters of powers. And this is where I'm saying that sometimes, perhaps, we also don't understand the hierarchy of management and the diagram of the City of Windhoek as to what can I do or what can I not do. Yes.
Honorable Kauandenge, your exit message for the City of Windhoek Council?
The situation at the City of Windhoek can still be salvaged, provided that we put our emotions intact and start thinking with our minds, not with our hearts. It can still be salvaged, and I hope that for the sake of opposition politics, my fellow councillors, my fellow leaders in the various political parties will come together to say, can we iron whatever is dividing us? For the sake, not only of ourselves, but for the residents of the City of Windhoek. Even the employees at the City of Windhoek, they are so confused now. They don't know whether tomorrow there will be bread on the table because the political heads are fighting one another on a continuous basis. It's really sad, and I hope that wisdom will prevail, at least for us to come together on the table and rectify this before the general elections in 2024.
Honorable Kauandenge, thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you here. To our viewers, that's it from the Evening Review team. See you again tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a pleasant evening.